my journey is not really that exciting. Fire and brimstone and Satan. And there was an old man in a rocking chair with a blanket on his knee. We found a Ouija board. I heard footsteps in my basement and I heard chains rattling. It was like he came out of the wall and went into the kitchen. I was pulling all this black goop out of me. And I shot out of that house. I said all the prayers in all the rooms. I love ghost stories. Her face was right there. How do I tell him? Like, this is just crazy. This house that we had bought, turned out it was haunted. What I've been through is kind of boring.
Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to the Medium's Table. I'm your host, Michelle Gardner. This podcast is your personal invitation to join me at the intersection of the everyday and the extraordinary. Together, we'll explore the magic of mediumship, share spiritual stories, and connect with fellow mediums on this incredible journey. So grab a seat, pour yourself a cuppa, and come join us at the Medium's Table, where spirits gather and stories unfold. I'd like to welcome to the show today longtime friend, Dawne. How are you today, Dawne?
I'm great. Thank you, Michelle. So excited to be here.
Oh, look, I am so excited to get you here, and I know you've got some pretty interesting stories, and I'm going to say I probably don't know them all. So I cannot wait to hear what you're going to tell us about today. And for the viewers and the listeners, I just want to say we've known each other, wow, it'd be over 2 years now. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Since the inception,
right.
Since the inception of a development circle where we met.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
And you're in Canada and I'm in Australia. And it's just been amazing how friendships form, isn't it?
It is. It is. Social media is amazing now, how you can connect with people who, you have the same interests and
and how we find each other. Yeah. Incredible.
Yeah.
So what do you have for us today?
Well, what I thought I would do is just kind of give you a little background on how I came to this mediumship journey. And one thing I did want to say is my journey is not really that exciting. I didn't, as a child see ghosts. I didn't, sense spirits or anything like that. It was more dreams that I would have. When I was a little girl, well, first off, I will say that I went to Sunday school as a child, and this was back in the 70s. And I remember they had little comic books that they would give the children, and they were full of fire and brimstone and Satan. And if you were bad little children, that's where you were going. And I remember being just scared to death. I would read these comics and I would just be so afraid,
Yeah.
So I guess that's what they did, was they would scare us to behave ourselves.
Yeah.
But so that was that. But when I was about 9 years old, I had a dream and I didn't think much of it. And I was looking in a doorway and there was like a living room and it had a fireplace. And there was an old man in a rocking chair with a blanket on his knee. And so, like I say, I didn't really think much of it. And about a year later, my family traveled to Nova Scotia. I'm in Ontario, so the East Coast, to visit some family. And we went to a farm and saw some horses and things. And we went and knocked on the door. And the door opened. And lo and behold, I looked in the door and there was that scene. There was the fireplace and the old man. And it was my stepmom's uncle or great uncle. And I looked and I said, I've been here before. And my mom just looks at me and says, no, you haven't. We're in Nova Scotia. It was my first time being there. And I was just so puzzled by that. And it puzzled me, for years. So I think that was my very first time of something just really strange happening,
Wow.
that I couldn't reconcile in my brain. Yeah. So that, that went on. And like I say, I never really forgot it. And I always felt that there was something, that wasn't to be explained. And I continued, going to church, and really I never felt at home,
Yep.
in the church and that. So we carry on as a teenager. What do teenagers do? We found a Ouija board. And yeah. So me and my best friend, we, skipped off school, and we played around with this Ouija board, and it told us this and that. And it told me I was going to have 3 children and whatever, And so we put it away, and my friend went home, and I don't know. I don't think it was my imagination, but I heard footsteps in my basement. It was a cement basement, clump, clump, clump. And I heard chains rattling. And I shot out of that house. Like, I was probably 14 years old. I shot out of that house, and I went down to the neighbors, and I said, I think someone's in my house. And my neighbor came up and checked the house, and there was nobody there, And I never told anybody about the Ouija board. So at that time, I had a part-time job after school in a sandwich shop, and I was telling my coworker about it. And she was an older woman, and she said, "Oh, you have to say prayers in your house." And she wrote out a prayer for me, and she said, "You say it in every single room of your house." So I waited till nobody was home, because I still didn't tell any of my family about this. And I said all the prayers in all the rooms, and I kind of felt better after that. And you know what? Years later, my neighbor's daughter had a Ouija board, and about the same age, and I took it from her and I broke it. And she says, "You owe me for that." And I said, "Here's $20."
I saved your life.
Yeah, you are not playing with that. Not on my watch.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
that's amazing. That's funny though, and I understand that, because around the same age, we did the same growing up. So I can totally relate. Totally relate.
Awesome. And like, they sell them in the toy departments of stores. It's like where Monopoly, you can get Monopoly or a Ouija board.
Oh wow.
Like, yeah. I don't know. Yeah. So that scared the bejesus out of me. So then I went on, and actually I found myself drawn to books on Buddhism. And I don't know, I just felt more at home with that. Like, I just read, and to me it was just such a peaceful, wonderful thing. And I just read tons and tons of stuff on that. And got on with my life and met my husband and all that. And we decided, we wanted to start a family. And I ended up with a tubal pregnancy and a ectopic pregnancy. I think I was 23. And at the same time, my sister-in-law was pregnant. We were I found out I was pregnant, and we're all excited. And it was, a lot of pain, went in, and it was stuck in the tube, and out it had to come. So, I was very, very depressed for a while. And watching my sister-in-law, so happy with her pregnancy, I was very jealous, and I was upset. And I know I drove my friends crazy, just moaning all the time and carrying on. And I had a dream. I had this dream, and it was my grandmother on my dad's side, who I was very close to. And she passed when I was about 14, and she was holding a baby, and I couldn't see the baby's face. And she said, "She looks just like you." And you know what? That morning I woke up and my heart was healed. Like, I honestly, like, it still makes me a little emotional now. And we're talking, 35 years ago. But my heart healed, and I was okay after that.
Wow. I just got goosebumps when you said that, like total full goosebumps. Yeah.
Yeah. It was amazing. And you know what? She is still with my grandmother. Like, she has come through in many readings.
Mm.
This little girl, and she told us actually a few years ago that she wanted a name. We never named her, and I told my husband, and he's always kind of sort of teetering on these subjects. But he named her. He named her Erin. So that's her
Oh,
name. Yeah, yeah.
gorgeous.
So yeah. So she's my special angel. And I've told my kids about her. Like
Mm.
they're very well aware. I had two boys after that, and they know they have a sister on the other side. So yeah, she's
Mm.
very active and present. In our
Yeah.
lives all this time. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
That
so
that's
yeah,
incredible. Mm.
yeah. So, like I say, it's the dreams. It's always been the dreams that have um, filled my heart,
Mm.
and
Mm.
made me know that there's something else. Like I really felt that there was something else. Um, in those days, I found Reiki, and um, I think it was in a newspaper or something. There was a lady who was advertising Reiki, and I looked into it and I thought, oh, I think I'm interested in this. I kind of felt like, maybe there's a calling for me, like because I love to help people and that sort of thing. And so I contacted her, and all she was interested in was money.
Oh.
It was books. She was insisting that I buy these books from the United States, and it was like almost $200 for these books. Now we're going back to the 90s at this point. And we were a young family. I didn't have $200 to spend on books, have them brought in from the States, and I was really disappointed by that. And I just said no, I'm not interested.
Mm.
So yeah. So I went on to other things. I found out about angels, and I read about angels, and I talked to angels, and I thought that was, they were beautiful guardians. And so I would send the angels out with the kids when they would go out to play. And actually, I had a couple of things that happened that made me know that they were around. One of them was my husband. He worked. I stayed home with the kids, and it was a snowy day. And all of a sudden, like he was due to come home, it was getting on to dinner, and all of a sudden I just felt sick to my stomach. And I sat down and I said, please, like, help him. God, angels, please help him. Something's wrong. And he came in the door a little while later and he said, give me a kiss. He says, you almost didn't. He said, my car started sliding and another car came sliding towards him. And he said it was the weirdest thing. They just sort of went around each other. And I
Wow.
was like, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So that was a very powerful, intervention there. And then with my youngest son, I asked him a little while ago if he remembered this, but he doesn't. But he was about 4, and we had a tree in front of the house, and he liked to climb it. And so he was going out to play, and he was getting in the tree, and I'm like, you take it easy, you be careful in that tree. And I said, angels, please look after him. And I will tell you, a few minutes later, he come out of that tree head first, slow motion down the trunk of the tree, and landed softly on the ground. And I was like, thank you. Like it was the softest landing I'm sure any kid took, falling out of a tree. It was crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah. So yeah. So on my own, being alone, I didn't have anybody around to really talk to about these sort
Mm.
of things. I just kind of read my books, and I didn't meditate in them days either. I hadn't found out.
Mm.
Yeah. Um, my older son, he has a little bit of a gift himself. And most small children are open, as we know, to spirit. And within these years, my husband's mom had passed, and I'm going to talk about her at a later time because
Mm-hmm.
she's pretty instrumental in my mediumship journey. But I was getting him ready to go to the babysitter. It was very early in the morning, and I had him laying on the living room floor. I think he was 3, laying on the living room floor, getting him dressed. The lights are dim, and he's looking towards the kitchen. He says, "Oh, Mom, Nana's here." And I said, "She is?" He says, "Yep, she's in the kitchen." And I looked, and I didn't see anything. And I'm like, "Oh, that's awesome! I'm so glad." Yeah, and
Yeah.
that just warmed my heart, eh? Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Kids are amazing with
yeah.
that, aren't they?
They are. And, he's done a couple of other things. He said they went into, there's a city near us where there's hockey games. They're called the Barrie Colts, and they're like below national level. But my husband was taking him into a hockey game. I think Andrew was about 10 or 11. And they had to stop at Walmart on the way because he needed a new coat. So they pull into, as they're pulling into the Walmart parking lot, Andrew says to his dad, "Wouldn't it be funny if Aunt Shannon was sitting beside us at the hockey game?" And they pull into the parking lot, and Aunt Shannon pulled in right beside them into the parking lot. So he almost got it right, but
Yeah.
he knew she was going to be beside them. Yeah.
That's incredible. Kids, they're so innocent and so pure, aren't they? And it just flows naturally
Yeah.
through them.
Yeah. Yeah. It just blows your mind, eh? Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. Yeah.
So where did you go from there to get to being a medium?
Um, okay. So now what opened my eyes initially to mediums were in them days, James Van Prague and John Edwards were on TV. And I watched them religiously. I loved them. They both had their own style, but what they did was incredible. And I was just like, wow. And at the time, I was still reading self-help books and books on spirituality. I love ghost stories. There was books on local ghost stories of towns around us. I was always interested in that. Um, but a very powerful thing happened out of the blue. So at that time, my husband was working nights. And the kids would be in bed. He would be due home about 1 a.m. So I would usually stay up and, see him and chat with him whenever after work. So I was laying on the couch. I had about an hour before he was home. So I thought I'll just, lay on the couch and rest for a bit. So I'm laying there. Okay, so a little backstory. Sorry. His brother was estranged from the family at the time. He was just doing things that were, he was doing his own thing.
Yeah.
Angry, wasn't talking to really anybody. Nobody had really any contact with him. So I'm laying there, and all of a sudden, my husband's mom, Valerie, her face was right there. And across my brain, she said, "Help Scott." And I'll tell you, the adrenaline shot right through me. And I sat up and I was like, holy smokes. And I was just like full of adrenaline. I started pacing, and I knew I had almost an hour before Steve was home. And I'm like, what do I do? Do I call him? Do I call somebody else? And I just paced because I was just blown away by this. And so Steve came home and I told him, and I'm like, how do I tell him? Like, this is just crazy, you know? And so I'm like, okay, I got to tell you this. So I tell him, and he's like, well, Dawn, it's 1 a.m, you know. I'm like, you got to call him. You have to call him. There's something wrong. He's like, I can't. It's 1 a.m. He said, well, call him in the morning. I promise. Like, we'll go to sleep and we'll call him. And I'm like, okay. So he called him in the morning and he said he was fine. Steve didn't say anything. He just said, hi, just how are you? So I felt that we needed to gather around him. So I called all the siblings and I'm like, okay, you're not going to believe this. It sounds crazy, but I saw your mother and she said, we need to help your brother. And I said that to his dad and his wife, both their sisters. And I said, we need to rally around him somehow. And everybody was pretty good. Like they always kind of knew I was interested in weird things. And, you know, it's Dawn. Um, so what had happened next was there was a gathering. It was a birthday party for a family friend. And he was there. And it was the first time I'd seen him. It was probably about a week since I had this experience. And I said, come outside. I got to tell you something. And I told him what had happened. And he looks at me and he takes off. He says, when did this happen? I said, it was the Thursday night. And he took off running and he come back and he hugged me and he took off again. And I'm like, it's because of you. It's because of you. So he never ever told me what went down that night. I'm sure something happened. He never ever said, but the family brought him back in. We got him back. And and so, you know, he was back. He, I guess, healed from whatever it was he was going on with. Yeah. So that really was what started my real interest. In spirit communication.
Isn't it amazing how spirit comes through for so many different reasons?
Mm-hmm.
And one of them, like you said, bringing family back together. Who would think that someone that's no longer physically here still has the ability and I don't want to say the power, but the power to still do that, you know, and encourage
it was
someone.
The power, Michelle. Like it was just so strong. So frantic. It was like she needed that message to come through. And it did work. And
and they bring it to you. It's you hear a lot of people say, oh, could they come through subtly? Sometimes when they really want to get something through, there's no subtlety about it.
That's right. Yeah. Whoosh.
And
it's
physically,
like an hour to walk that off.
And physically, here you are, like you said, you know, adrenaline's pumping. That was the power of spirit.
Yeah. That was crazy. I will never forget that.
Incredible.
Till the day I die. Yeah.
Wow. So from then, did you then like see a course or like what steps did you take after that?
After that, I did find Reiki again. The mediumship still didn't happen for a while. But we had moved to a new town and I worked in the local gas station and there was a notice on the bulletin board, Reiki available, blah, blah, blah. And I thought, again. So I took her number and she lived up the road from me and we hit it off. And you know what? Money wasn't an issue with her. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So,
and you know what? That was so full of healing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Reiki's a beautiful, I want to say, such a soft way to heal, isn't it? A
It
gentle.
is. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you've had a lot of, so when you say you haven't really, had experiences like everyone else, I think you've had some pretty phenomenal experiences, to be honest. I think they're pretty phenomenal.
I was thinking, geez, what I've been through is kind of boring.
Yeah, I don't think so. With each time you're mentioning it, it's like I'm just getting full body goosebumps. Like, oh my God, I'm so there with you on that. And I didn't know those stories. So these are all like first time hearing these. It's full body chills. It's like, oh my God. So they're pretty significant and they're pretty confirming, for you.
They are, yeah. That's what kind of kept me going, I guess, in, step by step. And I guess, I'm raising a family and busy. So I think it was appropriate, that it went slowly.
Yeah. They just kept feeding you little bits at a time. It's like breadcrumbs, isn't it? Just remember, we're still here. Just remember.
Yeah. There's another breadcrumb for you.
Yeah, that's awesome. So after Reiki, what did you do with that after that? Like, what happened after that? Did you go in a different direction? Did you continue on and expand that? Like, what happened after that?
Can I tell you a little bit about the Reiki thing?
Yeah.
Because I had a couple of interesting things happen with that. So when I was doing Reiki 1, she would, I would do it on her. She would do it on me. We had done the attunement and we continued on, getting together. And she did an emotional healing session on me. And I did have, some stuff from the past. Most people do. And within this session, I actually had a briefcase. And what I was doing was I was pulling, in my mind's eye, I was pulling all this black goop out of me. And I was putting it in this briefcase. And I was, just handfuls of it. And I was wiping it clean. I was cleaning out all this garbage that was inside of me. And I got it out until I couldn't get anything else. It was hard. And I closed up this briefcase and I flung it over a cliff. And when I walked home from that session, I felt freedom. I felt better than I had in a long, long time. And I had told her when the session was over, I told her exactly what I just told you. And she was like, good. She said, I specifically did that emotional healing for you. And it did. And to this day, it stands, so that was Reiki 1. And so at one point I was doing a session on her, and I guess my hand placement on her, she says, why are you doing that there? And I said, to be honest, I have no idea. And she said, that is where I have chronic pain. She said, I have an issue in that it was in her esophagus. And that is where I have a really major issue. I've never told you. She says, you're ready for number 2. And I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
Just that simple, right? Yeah. So that was very exciting. So then my good friend who lived across the road from me, she decided she wanted to take Reiki training too. So she took the attunement for level 1. And then the 3 of us would get together and we would do meditations and stuff. And so the one meditation that was very comical, my Reiki master, Sherry, she was leading it, and she said, okay, so we're going to go into a room. You can pick what color room you want. You can have pink or purple or green or yellow, and you're going to sit in the room and you're just going to be nice and quiet. And so this went on. At the end of it, she says, so Dawn, what color room did you go into? I said, well, I went into the purple room, but I changed my mind and went into the yellow room. And Karen, well, I went into the purple room, but then I changed my mind and went into the blue room. And she says, well, I went into the purple room too, but then I left and went into the red room. And we were laughing our heads off. We're like, it was just too darn crowded in the purple room. We all had to
Yeah, for everyone to have the same experience and leave the purple room.
Yeah. Too many people here.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So that was pretty good. To this day, like I don't have a Reiki practice, but like I do it on my family, basically. Although just one person, she would come now and again and have a treatment done. And I had a table set up in my living room, and the lights down and all that, nice music, and we're all nice and quiet. Well, my frigging cat ran right across her entire body and then back down again. And I'm like, what are you doing? Little bugger. So yeah, he kind of wanted in on it, I guess.
Yeah. Animals, they just got a mind of their own, don't they? Especially cats.
Oh yeah. Yes, especially kitties.
They're running the show, don't you worry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So really I didn't within this time frame, this house that we had bought in this little town turned out it was haunted. So I did. Okay. So the kids would say, somebody was looking in the doorway, the dog would be in the back bedroom looking up at the ceiling, for, 10 minutes, different things like that would happen. There was a light in the living room that was off, and we kept procrastinating. Oh, we got to change that light bulb. And then finally one day my husband says, I'm going to change that darn light bulb. So he goes in the kitchen and gets the light bulb, takes one step into the living room, and the light came on. And it was like, what the heck was that? Like it'd been out for 2 weeks,
Yeah.
Yeah. Just funny things like that. One weird thing that happened was we had 4 doorknobs fall off the doors. That was weird. We had to replace them all. One was the front door and then the bedroom doors. So that was just very strange. So then I saw him. And I never, to this day, I haven't really tried to make contact with him. I don't know why. I kind of just let him be. Yeah. But I was in my living room, and on this wall, there was a fish tank and then the doorway that goes into the kitchen. And I saw him. It was like he came out of the wall, walked around the fish tank, and went into the kitchen. And he was just really tall, had black spiky hair. I just saw the back of him, and I ran after him. And of course I got in the kitchen. There was nobody there. So I was like, oh, wow. Okay. I got a glimpse of him. So the next day, my son and his girlfriend were here, and she's spent a lot of time here. And I told them, and she went white. She said, I've seen him. I'm like, oh, okay. All right. She said, you described him exactly the way that she has seen him. So, yeah. So like I say, wow. I haven't tried to contact him. I don't know why. Yeah. I just feel like he's just here. Yeah.
So was there a reason why the girlfriend didn't mention him, or she?
Well, she did. Yeah, she did. But that was the first time that she really got confirmation herself as to what he actually looked like. Yeah. Yeah. Because her and Andrew would say, like, somebody keeps looking in the door,
Right. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And for them both to acknowledge that, and then you as well, that's 3 people.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Yeah. He's And he was quiet for a long, long time. And I find now I'm getting, funny little things happening again. So he's kind of making his presence known. So I
Yeah.
may just sit and meditate with him one day and
Yeah.
just, yeah,
And
see
he's
if he needs
probably,
to go on. Yeah.
yeah, he's probably feeling like,
Yeah.
well, I've just had my 15 seconds of fame right here now in an
Yeah.
interview.
Yeah. Right. Eh? Whatever your name is, I don't know what your name is.
Exactly. It's like, finally, after all these years, I'm famous.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Someone's talking about me.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. There was other things that happened, but yeah, those were the most significant things.
Mm.
Um, yeah. But actually, there was one other thing. Because like I say, my husband's like on the fence, and I said we had a surround sound attached to the TV, and it would turn on, and I'd be like, I really didn't want that on. You didn't have to turn it on. I'd just say that to him, and like Steve wouldn't be here. So then I would tell him, and he's like, "Oh yeah, right. That doesn't happen." And so the one night we're watching TV, and poof, on comes their surround sound, and he's like, "Hey!" I said, "I told you." He said, "I heard the button click." I said, "I know."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So he got his confirmation.
Yeah. Jeez.
Oh,
So
yeah.
what then? So where did you go from there? Is that when you decided, you know what, I've seen enough spirits, I've had enough confirmation?
No, I've had a couple more things happen. Um, Now we had a good friend pass. Red, that's what we called him, and he was just in his early 40s. It was kind of sudden. Really good friend, and so we went to the funeral. And when we got back, I was sitting at my kitchen table, and he was sitting on the chair right there, and he was looking off in space,
Wow.
not looking at me. And I was like, wow, wow.
Yeah.
That is amazing. And then he kind of faded. So that was one thing. And at the same time, we had another friend, Janet, and she was battling lung cancer. And I'll never forget, like she was at Red's funeral, and she was like, "Red, wait for me," like she knew that her time was coming. Now, her ex-husband, he had passed years before. Um, just that's part of the story. He had passed years before. So when Janet was getting close, we used to do a girls' weekend, and she always came, and she hung on for that next girls' weekend. And she came. She was on oxygen. She actually tried to get out of bed and fell. Um, and we went and, "What are you doing? Smarten up," and so anyway, she, about a week after the girls' weekend, I was sort of, how you're in between sleep and wake. I saw her ex-husband, and he was just standing there, and the same as Red was, just standing there looking off. And I'm like, oh, he's here for her.
Oh.
And I found out 2 weeks later that she had passed. And I was like, oh, okay, he came for her.
Wow.
So I didn't want to. Now we're really good friends with her daughter too, and I didn't really want to contact her right away. I really didn't feel right about that. So I waited until the next girls' weekend, which was the next year, and I thought, okay, enough time's passed. I think we can talk. And I said to her, "Oh, in the meantime, we had gone to a medium. There's a local medium, and she had come through." And she said, "Who knew you needed lungs to live?" um, so that was just part of this reading that he had done. So I said to her daughter, Christine, I said, about 2 weeks before your mom passed, I saw your dad. And she says, "You know what? In the week before she went, she kept saying," his name was Rick, "ah, your dad's here. he's impatient. He says, come on, let's go. And I'm like, not yet. And he's like, come on, let's go, let's go. And she's like, not yet. Like she said, she just kept talking about him, come on, let's go.
Yeah.
And so when I had said about, you didn't realize you needed lungs to live, she said that all the time, all through her cancer fight, because, she smoked, right? Who knew you needed lungs to live? So that was very pertinent in her ways. But you know what? At that point, when I saw this medium, Chris, that's when it sort of started to flicker. That maybe I might want to do this too. And because of what I've seen, I thought, I think I can. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And therefore you do.
Yeah. And now I do. But I didn't find James Van Prague's school yet, not for a while. I did go to a wise women's circle in a little town near us. It was two sisters who ran it, and it was fun. Like 1 week, it was once a week. 1 week you would focus on tarot, color and aromatherapy. We did meditation with music. Yeah, it was always something different, and it was fun. Me and my neighbor went to that for probably about a year. And then in another town, another friend of mine invited me down to a mediumship workshop. That was the first mediumship thing I ever did. And it was crazy. When I walked in, I figured the only one I would know would be my friend. And I walked in, I knew two people there. And I was like, whoa, hi, hey. And they were like, well, and the one girl, I knew her parents really well, and her dad had passed. And she says, yeah, my dad's saying right now, hey, look who's here. I'm like, hi, Jack.
Yeah.
So, the lady who ran it, she is a pastor. And she had different exercises for us to do. There's 3 different things. And we got put together with someone for 3 things. So the first one was we pulled a tarot card and we had to feel what we felt. And I did that, and I felt anger, and I felt upset, and I felt like, oh, just not good. And the pastor, Erin, was there, and she says, tell Dawne why she feels like that. And she says, well, I'm going through a divorce, and my mom just got diagnosed with a bad illness. And I'm like, oh, okay. So, that carried on. I got paired up, and it was anonymous because she didn't know me. I was just a name on a piece of paper. I got paired with the first girl I knew. And we did a little mini reading for each other. And then we had to pair up with somebody else. I got paired up with the other girl that I knew. So it was like, okay, I was meant to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Erin came through that time. My little girl. Yeah. The meditation was, you were to have a door, describe it, open it, and describe what you see from the feet up. So she went first, and she said, I have a little girl here, and she is jumping around. She's all excited to see you. It makes me emotional even now to talk about it. She says, hang on. She took off. Oh, she's back. She has a bouquet of flowers for you.
Oh.
And she said, I love you so much. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. To this day, it's still that encounter really does. It's very powerful for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
wow.
I had this other woman, her grandfather, and his gift to her, I saw silver coins. And she said, he gave me silver dollars before he passed away. So
Oh,
I
wow.
was like, holy smokes, I can do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Wow. That's
yeah,
incredible.
yeah.
And
That was,
just to acknowledge, because there's no coincidences. And I didn't know about this little girl. Now, just before, I just want to share with the viewers and listeners, just before we went into this interview, I said to you, hey, I had a dream about you this morning. And I said, there was this little girl, and I explained the dream to you, and that's when you said to me just before the interview, well, actually, and I was like, wow. I don't know if you've ever spoken about it in any of the circles we've been in, but I don't remember, no idea that there was a little girl.
no,
So
no.
it's incredible how they come through at just the most perfect timing,
Yeah, yeah,
knowing that we were
yeah.
going to get together this morning.
That's
So,
right.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. She's here.
incredible, incredible. Well, she's
Yeah.
incredibly active, but yeah. So, sorry, I just thought I'd throw that in there because
No, yeah,
dreams are really
absolutely.
relevant. Dreams are very, very relevant.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
mm. But sorry,
Yeah.
carry on with your story. I interrupted there.
Oh no, I think that was about it. Like that was definitely where I felt, okay, mediumship is something I want to pursue.
Mm.
And yeah, and it was probably about a year um before I found James Van Prague's School of Mystical Arts. And I looked at it and looked at it and looked at it. And I always liked him. I have a couple of his books in my bookcase. And so my daughter-in-law, who she is a very spiritual, lovely woman, I said to her, I had talked about this, and she said, Dawn, if this is catching you and you're dwelling on this, go for it. She said, just do it.
Mm.
And I thought, okay, I'm doing it. And so that winter, because I'm off work for the winter, being a gardener, um, I took his course. And his course led me to the Spring Azure and led me to become friends with you and as we know, a whole bunch of lovely women. Yeah,
Yeah. And
yeah,
it's an incredible group that
it is. Yeah,
has just attracted so many beautiful people from all over the world. It's been
yeah,
amazing. Yeah. Well, it
it
still
is
is
amazing.
amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah. Years
yeah,
on.
it's growing. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
growing. Yeah,
Yeah. Wow. That is not
yeah.
just a boring past history lead up. That's pretty significant. There's a lot of wow factors in there. But it's great to hear
Oh,
each different medium story, and your story, like, is different. It is unique,
mhm.
and it's unique to you. And these are the things, they're like, as we said before, they're like little breadcrumbs that lead you to a purpose.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know
for
that,
sure. Yeah,
yeah, that lead you to become something or learn something, and you know, like they say, spirit led. And
yeah.
there's no time frame. It just happens, and it takes as long as it takes. Like for you, like you're saying, it's from when your kids were young, all the way through to now.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, and still growing and evolving, and yeah, it will never end. You
Yeah,
know. Yeah.
yeah. What an incredible journey. Wow. Thank you so much, Dawn, for telling your
Oh,
story
thank you for having me.
and
Yeah.
being on the show. I'm a little bit wow, that's all I can say. When you said, "Oh, my story's a little bit unique and probably not," and I just think, well, you know what? I think that's pretty exciting.
Well, thank you.
I don't think I've had experiences like that, so I'm thinking maybe my life was a little bit boring prior to. Anyway, so Now, where can people find you? Where can people contact you if they'd like a reading, or if you're open to Reiki, or just to contact you?
I am on Facebook. I think that would be the best.
Okay.
The best bet. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Dawne Recker. Yeah.
yeah, I'll put the links in below in the description, and they'll also be in the show notes on the website, so people can can contact you directly. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Dawne, for sharing and being on the show. And I cannot wait to have you back to hear more unique stories.
Thank you, Michelle. It's been awesome.
Thanks for joining me at the Medium's Table. The universe is always speaking. Listen and let your spirit soar. Curious for more? Click on one of the videos below and remember to subscribe.